All right, I want to share a story with y'all about a man named Aton Valentino, right? They called him Mr. V. And Aton he was the CEO of a major banking conglomerate, you know what I'm saying? And he was the man, he ran the show. And so one day, Aton saw this real beautiful woman, right? She was dope. She was flawless. I mean, she was a bad shut your mouth. You dig? And he saw her at the infinity pool, taking a night swim. And so it intrigued him. And so he looked through his telescope, and what he saw blew his mind. You know what I'm saying? Because she was taking the evening swim in one of the infinity pools that was on top of one of the high-rise buildings downtown. And when he saw her, he was captivated. You dig? He was thrown back. He was like totally, just smitten with her. Couldn't get her out of his mind. You dig? One may ask themselves, wait, who is Mr. V, right? And who is the female that he's looking at, on this high-rise rooftop in an infinity pool? How did we even get to this point? You dig? We're going to talk about that. But please, before we do that, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. You dig? Doesn't cost you a thing to do so. Please hit that big red button. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you're always notified whenever I upload content. And please like and share the video. All right? Now let's get off into this whole Mr. V. So, Mr. Aton Valentino. Let's talk about Mr. Aton. Mr. Aton Valentino, otherwise known as Mr. V. He was the CEO of Rosenberg, Rothschild, and what was it called? Rheinveld? Rosenberg, Rothschild, and Rheinveld Holdings, right? This is a banking conglomerate, right? Huge, one of the biggest banking entities in the world, right? I think they were like maybe number 4 or number 5 as far as ranking. And so he was the CEO of this banking company, right? And he was affectionately known as to those workers that were low-level workers as Mr. A, because when, he would come through, he would always be like, hey, Susan, hey, Sharon, hey, Doug. So they'd be all like, hey, what's up, Mr. A? Because his name was Aton, right? They'd be like, Mr. A. And then, when he got upstairs and took the elevator, everyone then from there was just Mr. V. Good morning, Mr. V, Mr. V, Mr. V. You know what I'm saying? Aton was a good-looking dude. He wasn't no prima donna, but he was a good-looking dude to be masculine. You know what I'm saying? He was all male, for real. But he was good-looking, masculine dude. He wasn't real tall. He's like average height, kind of average weight. You dig? But, Mr. V, he had a way about him. You know what I'm saying? He had a way with words, and he dressed impeccably. And, he was just dapper. The way he carried himself like $1 billion. You dig? Even though he was personable, and he was approachable, but the way he carried himself was like he was a billionaire. You feel me? And as CEO, his position, was one of power. It was one of respect. You know what I'm saying? Not of fear, like people feared him, but there was a level of fear, but it was a fear of respect. You know what I'm saying? And admiration, because he did a lot of good for his employees. I mean, this was a huge company. This wasn't a little small banking company. You know what I'm saying? Rosenberg, Rothschild, and Rheinveld was a huge company, like 50,000 employees. You know what I'm saying? They had the main hub, and they had little small, entities, around the nation. But it was a big company. And his his employees, they admired him. They liked him. They liked him as a boss. You know what I'm saying? He did a lot of good for people and for their families. He gave out bonuses and did things on the holidays and, parties and things like that he didn't have to do. So the people admired him. They respected him. They understood who he was, right? And that he didn't play. But yet, again, he was approachable. It started out from when he was a kid, right? When he was a kid, he was just this little, scrawny kid. He was a smart kid, though. You know what I'm saying? He was always smart. He was always good with numbers. You dig? But he liked to play outside. He was kind of, he was always kind of scroungy and dingy. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't do stuff like the other kids did. He was doing his own thing, right? And he would, and on top of being good with numbers, he was gifted in several areas. I mean, he had already mastered calculus by age 12. And so, because he was so good with numbers, right? One of his teachers, mentors said, hey, I think you ought to apply, for the scholarship. You know what I'm saying? I think it would greatly benefit you and help you. And so, he did. He applied for the scholarship. But what he didn't realize is that, one of these representatives from the bank, right, had been watching these candidates that applied for the scholarship. And he was so good with the numbers that he caught certain people's attention, right? And when he caught certain people's attention, they wanted to find out who he was and what kind of family he came from and all this kind of stuff. And so they called him in. They called all the people that had won the scholarship. They called them in, to congratulate them and tell them they had won and, and whatever else they had received. And so when he went to the celebration, one of the representatives from the bank pulled him to the side, and said, hey, we've been watching you. We like you. We think you're really smart. And, you're going to be next one day. And the kid was like, huh? He didn't get it. He told him, said, yeah, you're going to be next one day. Just keep doing what you're doing. So anyway, his test scores were off the chart. You know what I'm saying? He had made a little name for himself. People had kind of been watching him and recognized what he was doing, but that didn't stop him. He kept pushing. He kept pushing. So finally they came and said, hey man, we want you to do an intern for us. Right? So he went, did the intern, knocked it out of the park. They brought him on the next year. They hired him on the next year. And then he worked and he worked and he worked his way all the way up to COO, Chief Operations Officer. You dig? He had worked his way up the company to where he was kind of running and managing, the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month activities of the whole banking conglomerate of all of Rosenberg, Rothschild, and Reinfeld. He was the man. He was the COO, right? And so, eventually, after, several years, he would become the CEO of this company, right? And when he became the CEO of this company, it was a great day. They had this huge, thing in the news, and all the employees were they were so happy for him, and they just loved it because they knew by him now being the man of the company and running the show that things would just skyrocket and soar, and it would be better for them and it'd be better for everybody as him being the CEO. So being in the banking industry, every 5 years or so, they would have this global summit meeting with all the major bank heads and representative people like that, right? And they would meet in Florida for this global summit that they'd have. So, Mr. V decided that he was going to send Cletus. Cletus did it. Mr. Cletus did it was the COO of the bank, right? He's the one that took Mr. V's job. When Mr. V became the CEO, Mr. Did It became the COO, right? And So he was kind of running the show now, and he had to go to this global summit meeting in Florida, right? So he flew down. The summit meeting was like 3 weeks, right? So he flew down, and he was at the summit meeting handling his business. But he also had a wife, right? Clovis May. And so she didn't come this time to the business meeting, right? Because she know that, his business is, really intense and really important. And with the responsibility that he has as COO, she didn't want to be a distraction to him down there, right? Because she'd have been a distraction, you feel me? So she stayed back this time while he went and handled his business, right, for the company. And while he was down there, handling his business, he called back and told Mr. V, he said, Mr. V, it's been a week. Everything is looking beautiful. The people are loving, our projections and our scales and what we proposing to bring to the table, to the global summit, and people are interested in some of the ideas that you've presented and put to the table. So everything is going lovely. And I just wanted you to know that, everything is on track. And so Mr. V was like, cool. Glad to hear it, man. I was kind of stressing about that a little bit, but now that I hear that everything is going well and you handling business, man, I ain't got no worry about it. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna go to the penthouse and chill out for the night, right? And so that's what he did. So Mr. V, he decides that since hearing this good news about the conference, and everything is going well, that he's gonna go to his penthouse suite and have him a drink, right? And just look over the skyline because he's feeling good. You know what I'm saying? Everything's going well. So, he goes to pour him a drink. He opens the balcony door. He steps out onto his balcony, right? And he's looking at the city skyline, and everything looks so beautiful. And he's noticing, several infinity pools on the rooftops of some of the high-rise buildings downtown, right? And so he just kind of, he's seeing people in the pools and stuff like that. And he's just kind of scanning the pools on the rooftops. And then he happened to see this exquisite silhouette, this beautiful silhouette of a woman, you know what I'm saying? And she was enjoying an evening swim, thinking that she was all alone in her infinity pool, right? Because she liked to swim alone, in the natural, when it was her alone time, when her husband would go away on business trips and things like that, and she just had some downtime, she'd like to go, take a swim in the infinity pool, in the natural. And so what happened was my man, Mr. V, saw her, and he was captivated by her. He was intrigued by her beauty, right? Because he saw her through the telescope. He's got the telescope posted up on his balcony, and as he's looking, and he saw the silhouette. He said he wanted a closer look. So he got his telescope out, and he was captivated and intrigued by her beauty, right? And so what he did is he got on the phone, and he called down to the desk downstairs. And, he sent word, hey, go find out about this female, right? Go find about this female. I can kind of describe her to you, where she, go find out where she's staying, what's up with her. And so, after a while, several hours had went by, and he got a phone call and found out who she was and where she was staying. And when he found out who the woman was, he knew it was going to be a problem. Yeah, he knew it was going to be a serious problem, because the woman was Mr. Cletus Didit's wife, Clovis May. And even though he knew that this was going to be a problem, right? This is definitely going to be a problem. But he couldn't shake his lust. He couldn't shake his desire, and it got the best of him. You dig? And so he arranged a meeting, at his home office, with Clovis May. And because who she was and because she knew who he was, right? He is the CEO. He is the president. He is my husband's boss. You know what I'm saying? So he arranged a meeting for her at his home office. And reluctantly, she came. And Mr. V wasn't the type of dude that you said no to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the way he moved and the way he carried himself and the people that he was around and the status that he carried, it just wasn't the type of dude that you said no to when he requested your presence or he wanted to have a meeting with you. You dig? You didn't say no to Mr. V. And at the same time, Mr. V was a very influential person. You know what I'm saying? And when he wanted something, most of the time he got it. You dig? The fact of the matter is, he wanted her. Point blank, flat out. You know what I'm saying? He wanted her. He knew that was his COO's wife, but he couldn't shake the lust and the desire. He couldn't shake her silhouette and her frame and her beauty out of his mind. And he just had to have her, right? So, he told her he wanted her. And after about a week of convincing and talking to her, she reluctantly gave in and slept with her boss's husband. You know what I'm saying? And the cold part about it was a little bit, it wasn't even 2 weeks, like maybe a week and a half, it's almost 2 weeks. Her period stops. Yeah. That's what I said when I heard her period stops. You dig? Okay. So now it's been about 2 weeks or so, right? Since the conference has started, and now they're having a 48-hour break, right? They're giving a 2 days break because the people have been there nonstop for like 2 weeks. So they're giving them a 40-hour break. And then they're going to come back in 40 hours and reconvene for the last, 3 days of the conference, right? So what happens is during that 48-hour period, Mr. Diddick comes home, right? He comes back. He flies from Florida all the way back to California, to LA. And he comes home, right? To kind of fill in, Mr. V, what's going on, kind of make sure things are still straight, because he still is COO, he still is in charge of operations, right? So he comes back from the conference for that 48-hour period, right? Now, when he gets back home and he talks to Mr. V says, yo, man, what's poppin', man? It's so good to see you. I'm glad everything's going well in the conference. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, check this out. You only got 24 hours, right? A little more than 24 hours before you got to go back. Man, once you go home, you know what I'm saying? Take a load off, relax. You've been working hard and pushing numbers for 2 straight weeks. Enjoy your wife. Spend some time with your wife. You dig? Y'all go do some things, go out have a dinner on me. A matter of fact, go over there to Chez Olay's. I'm going to call Enrique and have him make sure you got a spot. You know what I'm saying? And y'all go have a night on town on me, right? But Cletus couldn't picture that, right? He was a dedicated COO. He was all about his business, right? The company was like his personal baby. You know what I'm saying? He didn't play no games when it came to his job and his duties. So he was like, respectfully, Mr. V, no, I can't do that, man. I can't, I wouldn't feel right. You know what I'm saying? My employees and some of my other colleagues is down, they didn't come home. They stayed in Florida because there's so much work to be done that we had to do. They didn't even take that 48-hour period. So I would feel bad and wrong, chilling and going out, to Chez Olay's with my wife and having a good time when I know my people still down there crunching numbers in that hotel. You know what I'm saying? They're not having a good time down there, so no, I can't do that one, right? I'm just gonna crash out. I need to check on some things here at the job. I'm gonna crash out in the lounge, and then I'm gonna take the taxi back to the airport and get back to the conference. And so So he didn't go home, right? He stayed there. He called his wife, but he stayed there, and then he flew out the next day going back to the conference. So now Mr. V plan didn't work. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to get homeboy to go home and spend some time with his wife, lay up with his wife, you dig? So then, when things come up, it looked like it's on the up and up, you dig? And he's in the free and clear, but homeboy wasn't having that. So now he got to come up with another plan. Why he got to come up with another plan? Because y'all forget, did you forget that Clovis, her period done stopped? So if I can get homeboy to go sleep with his wife, that'll put me in a free and clear. Now, when it comes up, she's pregnant, guess what? We can just say, hey, it's Cletus. Remember when you came home for that little period and you hit it real quick? Guess what, man? She came up pregnant. But no. Oh, Confred, that did not happen. That didn't go the way that he planned it. So now he got to come up with a whole nother plan. And why he got to come up with a whole nother plan? Because he can't shake his lust. He can't shake his desire. He wants this woman, but yet he doesn't want to get caught. Because now how would it look? That would be like a major scandal. The president, you know what I'm saying? The president of this huge banking conglomerate is caught in a scandal with his COO's wife, who's pregnant with his child. Oh my God, do you know what that did to his reputation? He couldn't have that. So now he's scrambling. Now he's trying to think, what can I do? How can I work this out in my favor? So what he does is he tells Mr. Did It, yo, I have some money that I need you to pick up before you fly back down to Florida. So when you get down to Florida, I want you to pick up this car. You feel me? And when you pick up this car, you just drive that back, right? And so he's like, okay, cool. So he went down and he picked up the money, and then he got ready to get on a flight and go back to Florida. So when he gets back to Florida, he goes to the car dealership and he picks up the ride, right? He picks up the ride. But what he doesn't know is that Mr. V has been in contact with some folks that he know from the way, around the way through some other folks. And he set Mr. Did It up. You dig? He said, hey, man, there's going to be a cat coming through driving this kind of car. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be having this kind of cash on him. You know what I'm saying? And if you take care of this problem for me, you can have the cash and the car free and clear. You don't know me and I don't know you. So he's premeditating Mr. Did It's murder now. You dig? Because he done got caught up in a situation. He tried trickery. He tried manipulation. He tried, deception. It wasn't working. You know what I'm saying? Cletus wasn't having that. So now he's went to premeditated murder. All because of trying to hide him having an affair with his wife and his wife coming up pregnant and him being the culprit, right? These cats see Mr. Cletus, right? See Mr. Did It, and they take him out, right? Take the car, take the cash. Come to find out when, the police do the investigation, the car's never found, the cash is never recovered, and they still don't know what happened and why Mr. Did It was killed, right? So after some time goes by, Mr. Cletus decides that, okay, it's unfortunate what happened to, Mr. V decides that it's unfortunate what happened to Cletus. And so because this has happened and his wife is pregnant, I'm gonna step in and I'm going to do the right thing and help take care of the child and Clovis May, right? And so, nobody really thinks nothing about it because Mr. V is such a nice guy. He's such a stand-up dude. They admire him. They love him. He's good to people, right? And so if anyone ever found out that Mr. V slept with Mr. Didit's wife, and now he's dead, and now Mr. V is marrying his wife because she was pregnant with his child the whole time. Woo! Can you imagine? Can you imagine the scandals? You dig? But this type of stuff happens every day, y'all. Yeah, this type of stuff happens every day. You know what I'm saying? Because people get a little power drunk. They get a little prestige. They get a little money. You know what I'm saying? And then they think that they can just do what they want to do. And they think that they're untouchable. And then when they come up with plans and schemes and plots and they don't work out, then they graduate from those plans and schemes and plots to even greater plans and schemes and plots. You dig? And that's how sin does. When we don't snuff out sin right away at the root, that thing will continue to grow and grow bigger and stronger and greater until where it's out of control. And now we have no control of it, but it has control of us. See, what happened was he became an abuser. Yeah, an abuser of the blessing. You know what I'm saying? Those people that are blessed, right? And they have tremendous blessings, but they abuse them. They take them for granted, right? This is what he did. He had power. He had, decent looks. He had the money. He could have had any woman out there that he wanted that was, single and available. Yeah, because he was, you know what I'm saying? He was known like that. But he had to pick a married woman. And not only was it bad enough that you chose unwisely, but then it wasn't enough that, okay, you had her, you laid with her, but then you had to go even a step further. So again, like I said, Mr. V isn't the only victim. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Valentino is not the only victim that has suffered this fate. Having prestige and power and wealth, you know what I'm saying? A good reputation, connections, and you make the wrong choice with the wrong one, right? Because you wasn't waiting for the right one to come. You wasn't, focusing on what God would have you do. You was all in your flesh. And that's how folks get caught up. And we think, oh man, they got all this money and they got all this fame and prestige. How could that happen to them? How could they? Because just because you got a lot of money and you got a name and reputation, you know what I'm saying? And just because you rub elbows with the upper echelon of the creme de la creme, at the end of the day, we all put our pants on the same way. At the end of the day, we all have the same struggles, whether it's spiritual, whether it's physical. You dig? At the end of the day, what really matters is where your heart is and where your spirit is and where your mind and understanding is. Because all the other stuff is going to fade away. You dig? It really comes down to choices that we make. And like I said, Mr. V wasn't the only one like this. This has happened to many people in history. It's also happened to cats in the Bible. You dig? Let's talk about it. But before we do that, please remember to like this video and share this video. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you're always notified whenever I upload content. So, my man David, yeah, y'all know him, King David. He had a very similar issue, you dig? He had all this power and all this prestige. He had the name. He had the encore, the entourage. You dig? He had all this. He had choice of any woman in the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? But he had to pick a married woman. And not just any married woman, but his partner. I would think that his partner, his general, one of his main generals, you know what I'm saying, in his army, someone that was close to him, someone that was one of his, confidants that he talked to often, he trusted. They wasn't just like passed by, employee, employer. No, they was tight. And he slept with his wife. Not only did he sleep with his wife, but then it wasn't bad enough that he tried to concoct a plan to hide what he did, right? And when the manipulation didn't work and the scheming didn't work, then, the pressure got hot and time was running out. And, he was going to be found out. So he decided to take it a step further and premeditated murder. You dig? Yeah, the man of God had his general killed, put him in the front line where it's most hot and most fierce. And when he fell and news got back to the king that he fell, he thought it was all in the clear. Now he thought it was all good. It was all gravy, right? But check it out. The man of God said, ha ha ha, not so, contraire, mon frere. So as he proceeded to tell David this story, right? Because he wanted to get David's opinion. He's like, yo, man, I need your opinion on something, King. You know what I'm saying? Can I holler at you for a minute? And so he's like, yeah, what's up? Start telling him the story. And then we told him the story. He said, now, what do you think should happen to this cat that did this? Oh, man. Man, check this out, man. Yeah, he need to suffer for that, because that was wrong, man. Why would you want to do something like that? Right? Why would you want to do something like that? That's just wrong. And you should pay for that. The man of God said, oh, yeah? Well, check this out, homie. O king, you are that man. Yeah, you are that guy. And then all of a sudden, pow! It hit him like a ton of bricks. You dig? He was that dude. King David. The one that was anointed to be king from a young lad. The one that came up in the ranks in the army. The one that became, King Saul's right-hand man besides his son. Yeah, that David. The one that finally took over as king and ruled, right? And had a great kingdom. And the people loved him, right? That same David had choice of any woman he wanted in the kingdom, right? But yet he made a foolish choice. He chose with his flesh, right? And instead of rebuking and rejecting that thought from his flesh, he let it sit and fester. He let it entertain his mind and his thoughts. And when that thing got down in his heart, he no longer had control. See, he let that sinful lust and desire take root in his heart, right? And so when it took root in his heart, that's when he devised the plan. I'm going to get what I want at any cost. Then when he got what he wanted, that wasn't enough, right? But what happened was now he was between a rock and a hard place. So he was cool to leave well enough alone, but when she became up pregnant, oh man, now I can't just walk away. I'm going to be found out if I don't come up with something quick. You dig? And so you can go into scripture and read the story of King David and his general Uriah and Uriah's wife Bad. Yeah, her name was Bathsheba, but she was bad. You dig? So it's coming out of 2 Samuel chapter 11 through chapter 12 and the 9th verse. You dig? Check it out. So, listen, when God blesses us and when God has grace upon us and mercy upon us, right? Let's not abuse the blessing. Let's take the blessing, be thankful for it, accept it, and nurture it and care for it, right? But let's not abuse it. Because if we abuse the blessing, and then we continue to abuse the blessing, and then when the next one comes, we continue to abuse the blessing, eventually, and at some point, the blessings are going to stop flowing. The blessings are going to dry up. The blessings are going to go bye-bye because you're an abuser and you're abusing the blessing. No one is going to continue to bless you and give you blessings if you just abuse the blessing. Not even God. You dig? So let me encourage you on this So Thankful Thursday that I'm thankful that God has showed me some things about myself and revealed some things about myself that I could go to him and say, God, forgive me. I'm so sorry for being an abuser of the blessing. You know what I'm saying? When people have blessed me with things and given me things, instead of me doing what I was supposed to do with that thing, I did something totally different. You know, I did what my flesh wanted to do, or I did what I thought was expedient and immediately needed to be taken care of at the time. But that's not what it was given for. That's abusing the blessing. You dig? David abused the blessing. That was his power, his title, his prestige. You know what I'm saying? His name. God backing him. That was what he abused. He misused that power, that title, that anointing, right? How many of you out there have been given blessings, right? They've been given to you, handed to you unexpectedly. You knew they was coming, or you expected them to come. But when the blessing came, instead of you using what the blessing was for, or meant for, or given for, or sold for, you dig? You took the blessing and you abused it. I've been there, I've done it. But I thank God that he let me realize where I was at. And then I repented and asked for forgiveness, so that when he blesses me with the blessings, that I don't abuse them. I handle them with care and I use them the way they were meant and intended for him to be used by me. You dig? So let me encourage you, when God blesses you, when God gives you blessings, multiple blessings, and blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings, right? When all you do is win, make sure you don't abuse the blessing. Make sure you use it for its intended purposes, and make sure that you thank God for it, because they don't have to come. This is your man, Levon. Be blessed on this So Thankful Thursday. I just want to share that story with you and share that scripture with you, because it happens more than you think that it would not happen, because people have gotten so comfortable with abusing God's blessings. Let that not be said among us. You dig? One love. Your man, Levon. I'm out.